Hi, Julia. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. So to start, I talked to your cast earlier today, and we were talking about how it feels nice. I'm a millennial, so it feels nice to have a little bit of a romance movie boom, as it were. I wouldn't consider this a romantic comedy, but there are those romantic elements that we've kind of moved away from in recent years in movies as a whole. For you, as being someone who not only was like a pioneer of that genre, what as I was a young teenager watching these movies, but now as someone who is directing one in that, what for you is the biggest challenge of making sure this felt like a modern romance story while still honoring that feel that we've all missed?
I totally wanted to honor the tradition of movies that, you know, we love, whether it's romantic comedies or also the tear jerkers. I, it's funny you say that like we've steered away from them in movies recently, and I think that's one of the reasons that I think this movie is more necessary than ever because it's kind of a cynical time and a scary time, and I was very careful making the film to steer away from anything possibly saccharine, but I just hope that we can turn off the cynical part of our brains and just laugh and cry and enjoy 90 minutes of a love story.
Yeah. When I said what's interesting to me is like I compared it to 50-50 in the way that this relationship works. It's with the Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Seth Rogen movie where it's two friends and one has cancer and they're kind of dealing with the realities of cancer versus something like A Walk to Remember, because that is like almost a sappy version of what sickness actually is versus the reality of it. And I
Yeah.
really like how this movie lives in the reality of what someone being sick is and the people around them. For you, what was the like what were your like main points that you really wanted to hit with that relationship between Isabel and Mina and their dynamic so that it didn't feel like that cheesy, oh, one person's sick, but let's all be kind of happy and in love that we
Totally. And there's also a tradition of movies. I think they even cynically have studios have a term for it. It's called sick flick. And actually, um, to me, when I read the book, the idea of him having cancer was just the obstacle that makes it a tragic love story. The thing that for all intents and purposes, these people are meant to be together, but this is the thing that's going to separate them. And it's a major part of the movie, but it's also screen time wise a lesser part of the movie because there's the other idea that I loved from the book was this idea of being ghosted. So there's this first date and the whirlwind night of romance that they have together and thinking that you're falling in love with somebody and that they're falling in love with you and then she never hears from him again and she has a lot of time where she's being pressured into going on dating apps and there's another guy that she meets on a dating app that is for all intents and purposes the perfect guy. He's kind and he sees her and he's patient and he's not putting too much pressure on her and he's fun and he wants to get to know her, but she just her heart is somewhere else and it's not the right time. um, that's a huge part of the movie too. And I think what I like that Renee did in the book that I seized on for the movie is that Adam says, I can't spend my last days in this hospital. I can't die here. I don't know how much longer I have. I have to go out into the world. Take me on a trip. And in the book, they go all over the world. In my movie, I wanted to distill that to one really, really special location so we could just land with them and be with them, be together, but still have it be exciting and fun and exhilarating. So you're not actually in the hospital that much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I do want to ask you, because obviously, like I said, I'm a millennial. I grew up, I loved when we went through the Shakespeare adaptations of the 90s where we were like, yeah, these are now teen movies. But they did kind of set a lot of my age's brain onto adaptations and how we change something. When you have a book, like you said, and you changed where they landed and how that relationship played out in the one location, what for you is the most exhilarating part of getting to work on an adaptation and change what people know about a story to make it its own thing separate from the original source material?
Um, Say that again. What was the one thing that
What's the most exhilarating part about getting to change, like dive into an adaptation and change people's perspective of the story that they already know?
Oh yes. Well, I do have to credit Renee Carlino, the novelist, that she was very generous and trusting with me, and we had a conversation about how like I really wanted to maintain the spirit of her book, but it had to be distilled for the sake of a movie because, like I said, they go out all over the world, and it's too much. You really need it to be. It's too much in cinema. You need it to be more contained. But and then for fans of the book who are really familiar with it, I hope they see that I really kept the heart of it and the spirit of it, the characters, the situations. Um, there are places where I diverge from the book, but I think it's all with the same intent. So, like, an example would be for people who are like really familiar with the book, an example would be that the Seth character, the guy that is she meets on the dating app and is, for all intents and purposes, great. Um, in the book, she meets him at a minor league baseball game. And in my movie, she meets him at a football game. But the point of it is that she's surprised when she gets there because she wasn't expecting this. And I think it's still like, I still have that element of surprise. And I tried to make it a little sillier.
Mhm.
And I like the idea of football because that's such a symbol of masculinity that I
Yeah.
wanted to, the perfect guy.
Football game. I get it. When
Yeah.
for my last question, I want to ask because when I talked to Gabby Mina and Isabel, we talked about like specifically Gabby's costumes in this movie because I was like they're me ass costumes because it was like she's in leopard and purple and all these bright colors, but it really sets the tone of who she is as a woman versus who like all these characters are for you as a director. How important is the image of a character when you're trying to figure out exactly what you want the film to look like?
Oh, hugely important. And I loved the design. I like, crafting the design elements. I had an amazing team behind me, production designer and costume designer and my cinematographer. And I would send the reference that I constantly went back to was Desperately Seeking Susan for
Mhm.
the colors and for the costumes and the production design, the set pieces. And my costume designer was specifically with Gabby's wardrobe because I was like, have at it. This girl is energetic. She's the life of the party. Go for it. And sometimes she'd send me pictures and she'd be like, too much? And I'd be like, no. We had a lot of fun with it.
I love it. For the last other thing, I do have to just ask you because I think it's very funny. How has it been for you to be on social media and see the amount of people recreating your old movies, whether it be like the dance from Save the Last Dance or doing like the speech from 10 Things I Hate About You and just living out those dreams that we had when we were younger on social media?
Oh my God, it's so sweet. It's so awesome. I mean, it really is. I don't actually look at it directly that much. Like I'll dabble, but I'm also like afraid, like the break dancer, the Olympic break dancer that
Mm.
there's a part of me that I heard about it. Like I'll hear things from friends and people will send me links and whatever, but I'm always like one eye open because I'm like, oh, wait, are they making fun of me? But then I'm just embracing the no, they're celebrating it. So that's a wonderful thing as a performer, and I'm very grateful.
Yeah, well, it means a lot to me,
Have
again,
a good
as a
day.
millennial
Thank
talking to you
you,
today.
Rachel.
So thank you so much. And I really appreciate your time.
Nice to see you. Thank you.
Seeing you. Bye.